Hi everyone, welcome to the week 4 of the webinar presented by MediaAgility. My name is Reena Kapoor and I'm the marketing manager. I will be serving as your moderator today. Before we get started, let's review a few housekeeping items. During the webinar, I would request the audience to mute. If you have any questions, please use the chat function at right of the screen. We will be collecting all your questions throughout the webinar for a speaker to answer during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Finally, this session will be recorded. All registrants will be sent a link of the recording in the post-webinar follow-ups. I'll request Ajay, our Google Cloud Certified Collaboration Engineer and Google Cloud Certified in Google Workspace, to start the webinar. Ajay, over to you.
Thanks, Reena, for the quick introduction and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we are going to talk more about how security as a critical factor for any organization is playing a vital role and how we can improve on the security with respect to not just to the key application that we are, but extending it to devices. Today, we'll be more focused on the advanced security controls and cloud identity premium. This is Ajay, and I'll be giving you a quick understanding how we can secure our environment, data access, and how we can protect the unauthorized access of our corporate devices, corporate applications, and corporate data using cloud identity. So to start with, why there is a need, why we really need to think about the additional security parameters. As you all know, the workplace is transforming. We are no more working with certain physical boundaries, and our work is happening right from our devices. Now we have workspaces as well as we have home spaces at work. Uh, so the overall landscape, how we are working today is changing. We really need to adapt the modern way of collaborating and integrating within different ecosystem. User expectations have changed. They are more with mobile devices, no doubt about it. Everyone knows mobility is the key element, and everyone is trying to have access to this information right on their smart devices. Most of the core productivity apps are already in the cloud, and we are more of a SaaS consumption model rather than building our own application. And we want to be more collaborative because we are spread across various geographies and locations. Even if we are a small business or if we are an enterprise, we might have people working from two different geographical locations that are distinct apart. The parameter has actually disappeared, and that's the added advantage. Now you can have best of your people working for you, but they might be working from two poles apart. So one may be working from one region versus the other may be working from a very different region. And the parameters is not limited to only employees. Now you have vendors, you have customers, you have partners. In addition, now you have contractual employees also that you may hire the expert right from various corner or the part of the world. When we have these many people or these many channels where we need to collaborate, we should have a smart system. We should not be relying on the same traditional approach that asking everyone to connect through a VPN and then asking our IT or struggling our IT infrastructure with old traditional method where VPN connectivity is, we all know, a big challenge. And then asking everyone to get connected to go through the same experience of adding on the latency while accessing these applications, plus dealing with those regular IT challenges because of net connectivity and various other parameters. Today, with modern business, everyone is trying to adopt Beyond Corp as a new identity for a security model. We also call it as a zero trust. In this, what we are trying to ensure is the access is granted on user identity and the context. What does it mean? We are no more limiting an individual by certain network or by certain device. We are saying as long as you are able to prove that you are a genuine user, and here is the identity, and from which terminal, from which network you are coming from. Here is the access which you are authorized to. We are shifting controls from the network to the application layer so that we can work with the network available to us. We should be more focused on controls at the application level itself. And before the application, we have done all our validation while the user is accessing the application. And that gives a facility to a user where they can work from any location and any device. Sound interesting? Let's see how this works. So we have a service called Cloud Identity. And the best part is it works across the platform. When I say work across the platform, which means you can have Cloud Identity enabled for users, not just for a Google ecosystem, for any other ecosystem where you would like to identify what kind of access and privileges to be extended. And I'll be talking about what are key service or key application that you can control through Cloud Identity. Some of you might be coming from a traditional world where Active Directory is very common. Some of you might have just started with the cloud. But we always have a single source of truth, and that's where for the organization who are still struggling or managing multiple authentication systems with various applications in place, they would like to get streamlined first with a single source of truth. Now, this can be an Active Directory. For those who have started in the cloud, can be a cloud identity. No challenge. If you have an Active Directory, we can use a directory sync service that may talk to our cloud identity. So for us, cloud identity will still be a single pane of security control and management. What it means is you have a unified admin and UI, and you can consume the services via API. When I say consume the services, you can do directory sync via API. If you have any other system apart from Active Directory, for example, you may have your HRMS system as your source of truth and identity management. All the new onboarding is happening within the HRMS, as well as all the offboarding is also happening within the HRMS. What can be managed through this is the user identity, device, and the application. So we can manage all three just through one single service of cloud identity. What does it mean? First is, let's say when we were talking about identity, which means the user identity and the context from where he is coming from. Now, based on these two parameters, cloud identity and the endpoint verification, we are able to build our rule engine, which means I am going to define that if a combination of IP or a location is met, or a combination of IP and a time is met, or a combination of location and time is met. So I can use various parameters with a simple context-aware access. Now, this context-aware access help an IT administrator to identify who is the user. So I'm controlling the identity of the user who is trying to access, and then from which device it is coming. As you have seen in previous slide, there were three things: user, identity, device, and apps. Now we have identified the user. We know from which particular device he is coming. Here comes the magic of our rule engine. We are setting up that context. So if I have set a context that IP is X and location is US, he may get all the access, provided what kind of endpoint verification we have set here. If we have set a policy that he should be accessing from a corporate device versus he should be accessing from his BYOD, or versus he is coming from his friend's laptop, we might define the access or a permission. And here the rule engine acts. Depending upon the context from where a user identity is coming, we are going to define what kind of access has to be extended. Here, Cloud Identity Aware Proxy and Cloud Identity and Access Management Service going to play a major role. We can define what kind of web apps he can access. If you have infrastructure which is managed on the cloud, you can define what kind of machines he can access. what kind of SaaS application he access and to what extent he can access. For example, if he is trying to access your CRM system, can he export data from a CRM system, or he can just view if he is coming from a public IP versus a corporate IP. Similarly, the other infrastructure and the API. So what it means is at any given point of time, when you are extending access to an individual, you are trying to ensure that the right individual is there, right device, which means device is encrypted, its personal device, his shared device, or it may be any BYOD device or a friend's machine. What kind of restriction or the parameters I'm putting in, and basis to that, I define the kind of access permission he may have. Not just this, we are also able to manage our desktops, all the Windows management like OS management related to updates, patch management, we can manage using the desktop management feature. So we can manage any Windows or a Linux based machine using the secure LDAP features of our Cloud Identity Premium. Now with secure LDAP, you can have a seamless login, which means your email credentials become the credentials for managing or logging into your desktops or machines. It can be a laptop, it can be a smart device. You don't have separate credentials. Plus, you can also manage the updates. For example, you have 500 employees in your organization and there is a new update that has been launched. We need to ensure that not all 500 start downloading the updates in one go, rather we want to batch it out. We want to say should go in a batch of 50 each, and each batch is like between 9 to 11, 11 to 1, 1 to 3, and 3 to 5. That's how I've divided, so that my bandwidth should not get choked because of everyone downloading the same updates, or a patch management is happening for everyone in one go. So what you can expect with the desktop management feature is a single sign-on, which means your email credentials will be the credentials to log into your devices. And at the same time, we can provide any unauthorized access because all your directory controls are with Cloud Identity. We can push policies and enforce policies. For example, if I would like to restrict someone from accessing email account from a non-corporate device, I can restrict putting the context aware that I've seen in the previous slide. And as an administrator, I should have a functionality of wiping a device, pushing device configurations, updates, even approving the network at which this device can be connected. There are many customers who have used even Wi-Fi authentication using the same credentials, which means if you are in a corporate network coming from a BYOD device or coming from a corporate device, you should get automatically authenticated to Wi-Fi. So there are many controls that you can put in place. Let's see, what are these? Right from the authentication and authorization, we also ensures the security, which is very unique feature with most of the enterprise service customer. You get additional security health as a status dashboard to understand that how many users have a strong password, how many users are using weak password, when a password is going to expire for a particular users, whether they are using multi-factor authentications or not, whether they have application which are not HTTPS as default in the service. So you get all those security health reports and alerts for your applications that are linked to the same identity. You also get security dashboard that helps you to understand how the attacks, the attempts on my user information access are happening, whether there are phishings, there are spams, there are malwares that's happening. And if for any reason something happens, you have investigative tool to do analysis, to understand what went wrong with that particular user or with that particular information that has made a leak. So you can do an investigation so that you can future proof those leaks. You have your dashboards that help you to understand how strong is your domain compared to various external attacks and how frequently are these attacks happening, and a security health which helps you to understand how the current performance is for a user. Not just this, with secure LDAP, you also control that how cloud apps versus legacy apps are controlled and managed, and this makes a big difference. Now we have user where we are identifying the identity of the user. We have devices or the terminal from where user is trying to access. We have application that he is going to access, and that's where I was talking about that we are moving away from the network layer and moving to the application layer authentications, which means what kind of application he can access if he passes our rule engine. We are defining the context, whether he is coming from an approved IP, which is my corporate IP. He might have access to the application like Asana. He might not have application access to SAP. He might have access to download a data from Marketo if he's coming from a device which is encrypted, but he is not authorized to download or export any data if he is coming from a public shared terminal. He can view it. So we can put various policies, not just to the applications that are on cloud, which is SaaS, but also to on-prem applications. So you can do a connectivity or authentication for a third-party applications like Atlassian, like Zira, or Radius, or VPN, and many other components. So we are not limiting ourselves just to the cloud, but we go to the on-prem cloud. We understand that you cannot move everything to the cloud on day one. And that's where you need to have access between the two different environments. And we support truly both. But for you, the management will be completely cloud-based. So you're not managing anything locally, even to manage the authentication for these local instances. With this, I would just like to take you through some of these policies, how we can implement and what they looks like. If you can just allow me to log into my system, I'll just give you a quick glimpse about these policies. So I've just logged into my administrative control, and today we are going to have a quick look on the secure LDAP first, and then we'll be talking about the context aware access that we were referring to. So here is the LDAP feature, and this is similar to any other secure LDAP that exists, and you can see that there are certain LDAP clients that we have already linked, including Wi-Fi routers, Windows endpoints, and Aruba. These are some of the demo configuration that I've said, but I can just share that how easy it is. Let's say we are trying to do a dummy application link and putting a testing here, moving forward. And now we can define verify user credentials, whether this application is accessible to the full domain. This application is accessible to certain organization units, OUs, or groups, or excluded groups. So you can define the access to an applications at various parameters. So any user who is a part of particular OU, their authentication should happen to this application using the same credential, but not for other. So we can also use this application as a source of user provisioning and deprovisioning to these third-party apps using either of this method. So let's say I'm going to include some of my org, maybe just one org I'm selecting out of it. I can choose even a group. What user information they can, so they can read entire domain organization, or again you can choose, even if I'm giving read permission to entire domain, they will be checking if anyone is trying to access the application, but they will not allow the user because I have selected this to a particular OU. And that is the first step. I just named what application. Second, I defined the permission. And third step, I'm just getting a certificate that needs to be uploaded to the LDAP client. And from LDAP client, you will have the certificate to be uploaded here. And once the handshake is done, you are all set. Simple. Just 3 steps. Nothing fancy, no complexity, and you can add any client whenever you want. So right now I've just kept this. You can go to this and change any information at any point of time whenever you want. For now, I'm just going to because I have not updated this application, that's where this is currently off. Yeah, I can just switch it on or switch it off, but let's just leave this here. Moving back, I'm coming to the context aware now. And here are the dashboards that I was referring to. Your security health dashboard might not find fancy charts because this is a demo domain, but just to give you a glimpse of it, what can be checked here. And so you can put all the rules, permissions that you would like to put across. Your DMARC policy, your DKIM policy is missing or misconfigured for 4 domains, and your bypassing policy is all fine. So you can check the health of your security, and it gives you all detailed analysis. Let me show you the dashboard. It talks about how the people are using their authentication, their custom settings, message delivery, spam filter, how many emails were encrypted versus non-encrypted, phishing classified, malware classified. I know you might not be looking at fancy chart here because, as I said, this is a demo domain, but a lot of insights can be obtained right from these charts and reports, and you can drill down either of this. If there is any DLP incident that has happened, how medium, high severity, low severity, and you can view any report that you would like to. Let me just show you. Now, this is where we are doing an investigation. This incident has happened on this drive, and what action has been taken. Because this is dummy, we have not taken any action, but it just sent an alert, that's it. But in real time you can take the action right from here. So let me just go quickly to the context aware access. Here it is. And let me just show you what all we can just put here. Again, I'm going to create a dummy account policy, and here, if you remember, I was talking about IP, location, device, and geo. I can put any information. So for example, I'm going to define the IP subnet. I may use any of the example subnet. Let me see what is my IP. And here I'm putting, and you can put and or conditions. So if I would like to put additional attributes, let's say device, and if I say device should have a password, only a password protected device should get, or device should have a password and encryption, and that's it. So I'm putting a condition that IP subnet should meet. This is the approved IP. Device should have a password and device should be encrypted. Now it can be a BYOD, it can be a corporate device, it can be anything, but should met these criteria. I'm going to define the access level here. Now, when I have defined the access, I'm going to choose the apps. On which app this should apply? I'm going to say that email should have these application. And this was the one that I just created, and I say, so if our IP is what I have approved, if the device is password and encrypted, only then they will be able to access the email, as they won't be able to access the moment I said hit this save button. For now, I'm just excusing and not saving this policy, but you can see all your applications that are integrated with your domain services. They are listed here, and you can add these applications just like I was talking about adding through secure LDAP. So that's basically talk about at a high level how we can ensure the security, how we can implement the checks and control right within our administrative panel with a single window pane. We don't have to manage any fancy system or equipment. We don't have to deploy any additional hardware. Everything is running with one single interface, giving you a sense of security with security dashboard, giving you the rights and policy management with your context aware access, and helping you to manage your devices. With this, would like to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have any question, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Rina, over to you.
Thank you, Ajay, for sharing your knowledge and experiences with us all, and also for keeping us engaged in the entire webinar. Thank you for everybody for participating and also attending today's session. Let us know if you have any of the topics that you really want to have a discussion so that we can cover that up in the next sessions. Feel free to reach out to me directly. The contact information will also be shared alongside the recording. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Reena. Thanks, Ajay.
Yeah.
Thank you.